Welcome to Longevity Industries' presentation of the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I, of course, am your host, Dean Phillips. Today with me I have Brian Peschek. He is from Hiab, a on-road handling equipment, handling that division, and he is the operations manager over there. Welcome, Brian. Great to have you here, sir.
Great to be here, Dean. Great to be here. Good to talk to you. And thanks for the pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Brian and I go back quite a ways. We have worked at Society of Manufacturing Engineers, SME, quite a few years ago, and handling things on the forming and fabricating side. So that is full disclosure. That's how we know each other. So it's you're not like, oh, well, he's on there because he knows him from there. But Brian is a very knowledgeable
I've never
person.
Bought anything off of you. We should disclose that too.
There you go. That's
You've
right.
actually never tried to sell me anything either. So
that's right.
And I think it's reciprocal.
That's it. So. Yeah, absolutely. So right off the bat, what do you see changing over the next 5 years in the sort of the destiny of manufacturing?
Well, I guess build it on. We had a little bit of a conversation before we started rolling tape, and I think the destiny of manufacturing is kind of unfolding at the moment, or at least a destiny point, I think. Right. Of course, it's almost a cliche, but most cliches are cliche for a reason.
Yep.
The pandemic, the supply chain issues. We're at this real inflection point where, I think that perhaps one could say, look, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, what's the destiny of manufacturing, I wouldn't say it. But it turns out the destiny at that point was that manufacturing would become highly relevant again. Mm-hmm. And of course it was all along, but I don't think as a society we fully appreciated it. Us nerds, us manufacturing nerds, really revel in it. But it takes an enormous amount of coordinated human effort, material and knowledge to get stuff into our hands. Back when Jay Barron was, I don't know what his title was at CAR, Center for Automotive Research, up in Dearborn there. I was having a conversation with him, and it was just so true. He said, the thing is that you got, 20,000 parts. They get put down this assembly line. Someone turns the key, and it starts like thousands of times a day. He says, and it's a miracle every time. Yeah. And we go out, imagine looking out your window and not seeing a car. And this and so to me, I don't want to romanticize it too much because, maybe it's not the perfect human invention, right? Yet. When you think about the complexity of that machine, and there are teenagers in this world that think it's, just like a God-given gift, right? like they fall off trees, it's pretty amazing that humanity's come this far. And that we've really coordinated all of our efforts into getting that vehicle. If you're involved with a launch, like a product launch, like I've been involved in a few through the years, or any sort of technology launch or an assembly line launch or, whatever, it's complicated. And I think that I'm hoping that as a society, we're recognizing how complicated it is to get stuff into our hands and what a fragile system it is and how important it is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So back to sort of the question that you phrased, I think the destiny of manufacturing, that there's going to be some more attention put into it. I think that as a society, we're going to have to level up. Right. And I think sort of the 4.0 movement, is going to become, is our way to level up, right? I hope that people really fully understand what this is all about. Like we were talking earlier, I think that business in general has a fixation on buzzwords. And I think and PowerPoint slides for that matter, so I think if you're presenting and you throw up 4.0, Internet of Things, machine learning, you throw these buzzwords around, you can put bullet points all day, and you can wave your arms, and people feel good about that. Yeah. I do the same thing. I mean, we're all showmen, right? On some level. My concern is that that the depth of understanding is not up to the task of really leveling us up. And maybe I'm cynical in that regard. I don't know, but so much can be done. And there certainly are pockets where things are being done. Mm-hmm. The problem is, I think a lot is, and Dean, you may know the numbers off this. And by the way, looking at what longevity industry does, I mean, this is great. This is amazing, right? Here we are with all these, it's like Christmas morning in manufacturing, and some isolated pockets of, inquiry have delivered us some new toys, right?
Right.
Like it's a new set. We got a brand new set of Legos, and it's Christmas morning, and we got to figure out how to put it all together. So the toys are here.
I think that illustrates a good point.
Unfolds.
I think that illustrates a very good point, which is what you're looking at is an opportunity that it creates. The Legos don't build themselves either.
Well, right, exactly, and this is I hope you like an entertainment. I tend to speak like in hyperbole,
mm-hmm.
and maybe exaggerate for a point for clarity and entertainment, but we really need really good thinking.
Yeah,
we need good strategic thinking. Here we are on the precipice of the future of manufacturing, again, strategy is one of those words everybody loves to talk about. We're going to do strategy, but what does that mean? It is so cool. For example, I had an experience at a company. They had a 4.0 department and a VP of 4.0, yada, yada, yada. We got this, we got that. Okay, cool. Let's launch something. Great. Let's do it. They went into a very old facility. They identified a machine. They wanted to deploy a cobot. And I think cobots are cool, right? I mean,
yeah.
The potential there is enormous, right? Well, so they had a cobot. I can't recall the exact details of it, but the problem was the cobot was working with a human, and they never really looked at the cycle time of the machine.
Right.
And compared it to the cycle time of the cobot. Right? So here you have the machine staffed by a human,
mm-hmm.
working at a certain pace. You introduce a cobot who's slower, and guess what? Guess what the output went? It went down. It's not like it's like we as maybe as a society, maybe as I don't know about other cultures so much. I don't want to make any statements about all of humanity based on my limited experience. But we become enamored with our toys, and then we just use them in stupid ways, right? And we think they do things they can't.
Right.
I think, and it's just,
I think that's interesting. You say that because there are a lot of things that we use in that way right now. You think about how much people have really engaged with like the Echo shows and other the Google, any of those types of tools. And well, what do? Well, we turn on a light with it, or we ask it to play music. And the curious part of it is we don't say, hey, play music. No, you've got to first, you have to engage with it, which means it basically turn the device on. So you have an activation word, and then you can't just say anything. You can't just say play some music or play there. You have to be specific using specific words. Because I was at a Project Voice seminar, and one of the things they talked about was that there's this illusion that what we're doing is we're making it smarter, but really what it is, we're just customizing what we have to do in order to get a result. If you pick up your phone and you go into Siri, or you go into whatever device you have, and or even type it in, you type in, show me
Siri. I hate Siri. Siri has never, like, here's the thing. Okay, I'm sorry to interject you, but like, because this gets my goat, like, okay, Siri, this is great. You could ask Siri. Siri has, I'm not sure if Siri has ever delivered me an answer I can use.
Right.
For whatever reason. And maybe it's just because I'm a goofball, or, I'm a part of the algorithm, but like, Siri, you got to start learning me.
Yeah.
And that's like, so that then this will become, but like, if you have to, it's always frustrating to me. I'm sorry, but go ahead. See, I'm like you're saying things, I'm like bubbling over with like commentary.
Well, the person who was giving the seminar, he said, okay, type into your phone or say into your phone, show me McDonald's, or show me restaurants near me that are not McDonald's. Well, that not algorithm doesn't work. So what does it show you? Right. All the McDonald's that are near you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's just an element of part of the problem, is that we have this illusion that things are happening, or that this technology is doing something that it may not be doing right now. Just like you mentioned about, well, we get enamored with our toys. And I see that all around us. Even IoT stuff, we talk about big data. Everybody loves that. Yes, IoT, yes. And they get all excited about it. So what? If it can't give you the results, or it can't give you an answer, who cares?
Well, and here's the thing, right? And I've been saying this for a while, right? We talk about we live in the information age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly. But it's the era of mere information. I don't need information. I need meaning. Right. You know what I mean? And, and meaning answers the question, so what?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And here is the big irony in like all these factories. This data is all over the place. And I've seen this a lot of places, right? Okay, and I get, I end up banging my head against the wall because, okay, what are the inputs we need to answer these questions, right? Any question related to putting, making something. Oh, this, and this. Well, isn't it stored? And it's stored in 10,000 different locations. It's stored in information systems that don't talk to each other, that are incapable of talking to each other, right? And it takes an expert to write a query to extract it from each of them, right? And you see this all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then some poor sucker has to scrub the data, pour it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then by then the whole program's over. It's like, so that's what's exciting to me when we talk about part of the 4.0 is just kind of coordinating all this information that was there already.
Yes,
but I hope it doesn't turn out to be an empty promise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not terribly. It's funny, when you said you want to do a podcast, and I don't know that I hesitated to reply at all, did I? Well, yeah, sure, whatever.
No, I think you said, yeah, that email, sounds interesting.
Yeah, yes. And then I'm like, okay. So then I looked into it afterwards, of course, and realized, so this is a tech-based, your theme is pretty tech-heavy, which is kind of like, well, kind of odd that I'm going to be in a tech-heavy podcast because I'm a bit of a Luddite. It's not that I'm a Luddite. It's just that I really have a distaste for uncritical application, right?
Right.
And then so much of it's like, again, like the cobot example that I had. It's a hammer looking for a nail, right? But actually, we had a screw, right? So let's start with the problem. Which I'm still a lean guy. Like that's and keep it. I'm gonna go out looking for waste.
Yeah.
And when I find the waste, okay, now I've got some other thing in my toolbox, right? And it's a tool, it's not a toy. Now somebody should be toying with all this stuff, and that's cool. But I got a business to run in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have questions I want answered from way back when. I believe, I haven't been everywhere, right? I'm not like some, McKinsey consultant traveling around the world all the time, right? And being in a bazillion places, but I've been a few places, done some benchmarking work. I mean, what's an ERP system cost these days? Like, or $1 million, even like the small guys are spending like lots of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
You spend all this money on an ERP system, and it's just chocked full of data. Chocked full of it, right? And then what happens? You got one of two things. Everybody downloads the stuff in the spreadsheets, right?
Right.
Or you hire an expert, some genius. If you're lucky enough to find, a computer genius that has some sort of manufacturing bug. I mean, by bug, I mean, a taste for manufacturing.
Yeah.
To put a whole system that lays over your ERP system so that you can actually use it to answer the questions you want to answer, right? And to make the decisions you want to make. And, I find it just kind of odd, that this is the way it is and this is considered normal. That you could spend $1.5 million or whatever, or even $500,000 on a bit of software, and then you got to do all this work to make it work for you, to just get out all the information that's in there and put it in a usable form. But there is this issue too of like, you see all these, everybody's, data driven, right? That was the buzzword a few years ago, right? And then you see it and then you laugh. Well, what's that mean? Does it mean again, it means that somebody goes for all this spreadsheet work and then they just take the average of some column and that's what we're going to live by.
Right.
So like, I don't think like real, I think manufacturing in general would benefit from some real statistical sophistication and real business analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is out there, right? I mean, that sort of skill set is out there, but all those people are swapped up by, Goldman Sachs and, like the financial sector, there's other sectors, the economy that snatch up those people and put that kind of thing into work.
Well,
and of course, again, you got to be a Fortune 100 to like support a function like that.
Yeah. Well, even insurance companies are like that now. I gave a seminar on safety a few years back for the Michigan Safety Conference, and when I was there, who was in the room but a whole lot of insurance guys, and they were in there because they were intrigued by, in the same way on your phone now, where they're like, oh, well, safe driver discount, and we're basically tracking you. We're tracking how good of a driver you are. Well, we're tracking how bad of a driver you are, and we're going to raise your rates for being a bad driver, but we're not going to hit you as hard if you're a good driver. So that's really what it is. And they were trying to extrapolate the same type of data in a manufacturing facility. How do I look at what I'm doing and make sure that my people are doing it properly and they're doing it safely? And that was what their goal was, is how do we track this stuff for this result. And I think you hit on a very key point, which is we believe we take the data and then we extrapolate a result. But in reality, most of the time we start with the result. We say, okay, I think this is happening in my plant, or so go prove it out. Even our searches in many cases, when we go and do a Google search or whatever, we're doing that to substantiate our belief. So even our phrasing we type in, when we type it in, the way I phrase it, I can type it in two different ways. My wife and I are a perfect example. She'll say, well, I think this is healthy. Okay. So she'll type it in, peanut butter is healthy. And I'll type in, is peanut butter healthy or is it not healthy? And just by typing in those two different things, I can completely substantiate both points.
Yeah, so again, all right. So like, here's the thing, right? So we have all this information out there, and we're still dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to peanut butter.
And it is. It's interesting.
So there's this level of, as a society, are we sophisticated enough to actually use this information? And I think that, I'm trying to find the stat. I can't find the stat, but I believe, and you might know it offhand, the vast majority of businesses, and especially manufacturers, maybe in the world, but at least in North America, are, small to medium enterprises, like less than 250 people.
Right. That's
right. So so look, you got a 125 person plant, right? Mm-hmm. What's the chances that one of those people is a data scientist? Pretty slim. Right?
Yeah.
What's the chances that, that even the top management has higher level education on statistics or data or just basic strategy or just management principles, right? And if this was a leadership podcast, I could rant about that all day too, but that's a whole different podcast. And, another buzzword that
right.
I fear we just throw around, and more often than not, it's just I roll my eyes. I mean, I take leadership very, very seriously. But usually when I see that word, I just roll my eyes.
Well, I'll give you another example of that is the word change. It's when you hear the word change, everybody goes, yes. And they all agree that they understand it. And they all agree that, yes, this is beneficial. But, my grandfather, here's how old he is. He's dead. That's that is change, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But we assign, when we hear the word change, people assign the value that it's a good thing because they've been told you have to accept change, and change is good and change is beneficial. That's not true. That's not even what the word means. But we assign this belief to it. And I hate it so much that every time I hear somebody, I said, do you mean improvement? And oh, yeah, of course we mean improvement. Well, then say improvement. Don't say change.
Well, and then, but by the way, can I trust you with that word?
Yes.
Because that's a whole nother level. But
right.
The funny thing, I think it's an interesting point, Dean, because I think maybe what happened is, I'm a very sentimental kind of guy about sort of, there was a golden blossoming of manufacturing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about that Diego Rivera mural of the Rouge plant, in Detroit. That's sort of those sort of iconic manufacturing images when like the scientific revolution and just when all that happened, right? And maybe we're on the verge of another one. Maybe we are. I think that one was really, what was that? That was that 2.0. This 1.0 was what Steam, 2.0 was the assembly line, 3.0 was digitization in general.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2.0, right? So when I think about the 2.0 revolution and that era, and we made stuff, right?
Right.
Ore goes in one end of the building, a car comes out the other. Hey, what'd you do? Oh, I made stuff. Here's this car. It wasn't here a minute ago.
Yep.
And it's cool, right? And it's but now that since maybe we make less stuff, like ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the people involved in manufacturing in North America. Like we integrate things, we sub things, we assemble things, we assemble components that we source abroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and of course, our society as a whole has shifted away from stuff making, right, activity,
Yep.
to sort of thought making activity. So, like, change. What do? I do change. That's my product, right?
Yep.
So it's like, and you've heard this 1,000 times, I'm sure, as well as I have, is that oh yeah, the new boss is here. He's got to make change, right? Because that's what people do.
That's right.
We don't make cars. We don't make, hammers. We don't make, textiles. We make change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why that's something now, right? But maybe some stuff doesn't need changed.
Well, I think you're right about that. One of the problems too that talking about lean and lean theories, if you use the same principle that you use in a manufacturing process, okay, you're going to pick up this part, you only want to touch it once. You want it to go through each of the processes, but you don't want to keep picking it up and putting it down because that's waste.
Mm-hmm. And in here at my company, we call that the Ohio way. Only handle it once.
Yeah. Well, and in theory, that's amazing. But then here we are doing the exact opposite when we get parts from overseas. How many times is that picked up and put down coming from overseas? It's at least 10, 15 times at minimum. It's picked up, it's put in a box. Then it's put in a box, it's put into a big container. It's put into a bigger container, which is put into a bigger container. And then it's hauled on a vessel overseas, and then it's taken off how many times and put onto a truck. And how many times? And all of those times have a chance of it being damaged, and all of those times have a chance of it being lost or whatever. Or, maybe it gets stuck because it's sitting offshore waiting to be delivered.
Right.
Whatever the case is, we don't apply the same principles that we just got finished talking about in lean and how we were trying to optimize things. We live in our own little bubble that we want to accept it.
Right. And I never thought about it that way, but you're totally spot on in that. It does get handled a million times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is why they talked about. That's why some of the Lean Enterprise Institute folks were talking a while ago about value stream, like the full value stream, right, all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Now that spans enterprises, that spans the globe, so it's difficult. It's a really super ambitious thing,
right?
Again, here's the thing. Every handling of it requires exertion of energy, requires information and coordination. And I'm not sure that the thing picks up much value for a lot of those handlings.
No.
From a business side, thank God all that energy, outside of our building is so cheap. Evidently, because at the end of the business day makes sense. Whether it's this is part of the situation, right? Is that what's good for the individual business or the individual plant is not necessarily good for the society as a whole, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So all we've done is outsourced all of our waste.
Mm-hmm.
It's really what we've done in a lot of cases.
Well,
and pushed it downstream.
Yes. Well, that's a great great point about that, because one of the problems that goes along with that has been, if you look at, people talk about things like carbon taxes and things like that. Well, what do you think a big companies does is that a lot of the larger companies, well, if you tell me that I'm creating a problem because of painting, well, then I'm just going to outsource the painting. I'm not going to do it. And then let somebody else deal with that, because it's not a zero loss effort. You can say that and then next thing you know, that company gets an award for being more green because they're not doing that process anymore. Doesn't mean the process isn't being done. It still has to be done. It's just not done here.
Right.
So find the waste. Let them do it.
Yeah. My company is we're Scandinavian based, and very, very progressive in terms of ESG, environmental sustainability and governance, thinking. Right. And I'm real proud of what our ambitions are as a company. I'm proud to be a part of that. It's tough though. It's tough because you go to best cost countries. Well, why are they best cost? Right. I mean, it's a tricky thing.
Yes.
It's a tricky thing, and I mean, we got rid of paint, at our old plant, and, but went strictly all the half-thick galvanized. That's happening somewhere, and we could hold the limits. I mean, how much we can demand of our suppliers is limited because we're just different entities, right? We compete for their capacity. And if we get to be a real chore, and everybody else isn't, then, they're going to not serve us well. So,
right.
But we make the effort. It does get a little more complicated, right? Problem, of course, is that this is really not unfortunately, this is not what corporations should be involved in doing. I mean, in my opinion, in fact, we are left with this reality that, and this is my kick on leadership. Like, I think that we are the leaders more than the so-called leaders. Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've seen that over the past decade or so, and you see the what do they call it, the business council or whatever it was that said, we have an obligation to society, and we're left filling the gaps that our formal leadership system has left. Right. And it's an interesting thing is like, you think about all the effort in an American company that is put into sourcing and administering and monitoring healthcare.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because I mean, some people argue, right? And, well, they can argue with me. I don't care. But why is any company, why is any manufacturer devoting energy to healthcare? It's not really our job. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it be better if we were focused on making stuff?
Right.
And it's just, and the same thing with, because you want a level playing field, right? I mean, this is what it comes down to, right? Like employers are competing on healthcare, right? Like, is that really what we should be competing in? Maybe we had a level playing field, everybody would be doing the same,
right?
And then we could all just focus on who's got the safer plant, which we have a pretty safe one here. I'm really quite proud of it. And it's interesting. People walk in. We had some labor shortage there for a minute, and we've had people come in and they look at our numbers. I think we just passed 900 days LTI without a LTI. The record before that was 809, I think. So we're a safe plant.
That's great.
And
congratulations.
And it's clean. Thank you. Not that my accomplishment. I mean, it's everybody's. We really walk the walk here.
Good.
And everybody's involved. down to the operator level. But I mean, I will say this too: we're not a forge. You know, we're an assembly operation, so that helps us. I mean, it's not apples to apples, but still,
yeah,
we're pretty damn proud. I mean, I still can get hurt here, and we don't as much. Wait.
Well,
I don't know if you picked that up on the mic. Yeah,
it's a conscious thing, though. It is a conscious thing, and a company does have to be conscious of those aspects. That, in other ways, and I always bring this up when you talk about safety, is that there are intangibles of what safety costs. You know, it isn't just the investment in safety devices or safety training. It's the opposite of that. Now, the inverse is when somebody gets hurt. Do you know the cost of it? It isn't just the cost of the individual. It's the cost of loss of morale. It's the cost of loss of faith in the company, loss of faith in the machine that you have. All of those things occur that are very detrimental to a company's culture, that are overlooked all the time when you talk about how much something costs to invest in when it comes to safety. It's
right,
unfortunate.
And this is strategic thinking, right? Which is, I don't know how many accountants listen to your podcast, but this is not accountant thinking.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what happens, and I have a rough relationship with the profession, you know, and I understand that, you know, I mean, they get paid to do what they pay to get to, and that's, you know,
and it should be a checks and balance.
That's fine, and that's cool. And I know we have to, I mean, I know I understand the whole bottom line. I understand all that, you know, and I look at the income statement and that's how I react. But, you know, what I get a problem with, or I've had a problem with from time to time, is when there's the traceability issue, right? Where I've been in companies where, okay, we're going to do an OpEx program. We're going to have an OpEx, a project hopper, right? And they'll say, okay, every improvement you make has to be, you know, traceable to the bottom line, and that has to be validated by accounting.
Not the best way to run a company.
No, I mean, to me, that's a rather narrow approach. Now, I'm not saying that. So then don't call it an operational excellence program.
Right.
Let's call it what it is. It's a cost-saving exercise.
Yes.
Which is a much less strategic thing, right? You know, here's what I know back to the safety thing, right? Okay. I know for a fact over the past year, we've had quite a slew of interviews. We're doubling the size of our plant in terms of headcount because of this additional product coming in. So it's a very exciting time here. But we bring candidates in, and they're like, wow, this place is clean. This is the other side of 5S, by the way. Right?
Yeah.
Like, people come in like, wow. They've never been in the factory. I mean, I'm not saying we're the best. I mean, we get a little bit of, you know, kudos and stuff, but, you know, when I hit the floor, all I see is like the pallet that's out of place and across the orange and yellow line. You know?
Sure.
Which drives me crazy. Or the garbage can that's like, you know, 3 inches out of place. And it's become a bit of a joke how relentless I am. But people who've worked in dumps come in here and they're like, wow. They'll be like, you know, I'm making X dollars now, but I tell you what, I'd come here for X minus 2 per hour because, like, this is nice.
Right.
Now, that's anecdotal, right? That's firsthand. Now, show me how that shows up on the income statement.
Absolutely. You're right.
This is strategic. That's what I mean by strategic thinking. And, like, in terms of safety, in terms of 5S, in terms of operational excellence. And I go back to Ford, Henry Ford, for all his flaws, which we should never forget. He did do a few things right.
Yeah.
In certain spheres, of course. In certain spheres, he was genius, right?
Yep.
But, you know, profit is the result of work well done. And, you know, to invoke Spike Lee, do the right thing. Yeah. You know, it's like invest money in this, like, and I understand the business case. I understand that managers and engineers and technicians can't just go running around spending money willy-nilly. But it doesn't, sometimes we just do the sniff test and say, like, yeah, this seems like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it seems like a good idea? Yeah, I do. But what about this thing? Okay, let's take care of that thing.
Yeah.
All right, good enough. Let's go. It's just sort of, and again, I go back to sort of that Toyota sort of management style, which is, I think the management style and sort of the leadership style is more important than any of the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think actually the whole lean community kind of maybe, well, I don't know about the whole lean community, but I do think that can be overlooked.
Right.
Because, as lean specialists or consultants go around, they gotta bring their own sort of technology. Now, it's not technology in the sense that we use technology widely, right? But Kanban is a technology. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Anything that goes beyond us, like running in the woods, gathering berries naked, is technology, right?
Yeah.
So, usually when we use the word technology, these days we usually mean high tech, or,
right.
sort of digitization. So,
great.
Again, I think here's what I see. I think it's like what people, and maybe even a lot of people within in manufacturing don't fully appreciate. Geez, I don't know if I do, but frankly, like we've got a transition. I think. Again, I tend to make absurd and like kind of big statements. Let me think about it here. I think I'm right. So like with the 3.0 revolution, right? That centered around the machine, right? But now I think with the 4.0, I guess this is one way to characterize the 4.0 thing, is that like the whole enterprise is the machine. Or at least the whole factory.
Yeah.
Right? And I hope we're visionary enough to realize that the whole enterprise is a machine.
Excellent. And we are out of time, sir. And I think that's a great closure there for this. So, Brian, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and how they can reach you.
Oh, yeah, sure. You can reach me at brian.peschek@hiab.com. That's BRIAN. Peschek, P as in porcupine, ESHEK @HIAB.com.
Excellent.
And I love conversation.
Yeah.
So I welcome it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And everybody have a great day.
It's been a blast, and I would love to do it anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take it easy.
See you.
Bye-bye.